Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is May 30th, and right now we're looking at the visible satellite imagery. You can see the low clouds across some of western BC, Washington, Oregon. But if you look out across some of the higher terrain of Oregon on into Montana and Idaho, these clouds are a precursor to the thunderstorms that are going to be developing today and tomorrow, mainly afternoon and evening hours. We'll take a look at that in some detail. We'll also take a look at the potential warm up here coming for the Pacific Northwest as we go into the extended forecast coming up in a minute. This is looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see the low pressure across California here. We got some precipitable water, some high amounts across Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and you can see the general onshore flow here that's keeping things cooler than normal the last couple days across Pacific Northwest. It's going to do so for the next few days as well, but then we are going to warm up here, and we'll take a look at those details here in a moment. This is flash flood risk Tuesday and Wednesday. You can see across eastern Oregon, Idaho, and up in towards Montana here, some dangerous lightning, some runoff issues out there, mainly the afternoon and evening hours. And watch out across the higher terrain and the burn scar areas for those threats. This is looking at Seattle, 68, 1 degree below average yesterday, probably something similar today, maybe a couple degrees off of that. As we wrap up May here, a very warm May indeed. We'll have some information on that once we go through May 31st, and we'll try to get some of this data. We may be on to the warmest May ever here recorded for Seattle, as well as a few other areas across Pacific Northwest. You can see these temperatures above average. We had that big stretch in mid-May as well, with those 4 straight record high days there through mid-May also. This is looking at day one thunderstorm outlook, day two something similar there, and this is day one excessive rainfall outlook here. Kind of mirrors where those thunderstorms are going to be setting up. Day two something similar there, so watch out for those conditions, especially in the backcountry there. Campers beware, dangerous lightning, those runoff issues. This is looking at that rainfall outlook on a wider view of things here. You can see that marginal risk as we go through the day today, and each one of these has a nice forecast discussion as well, and they do talk about that across northern Idaho, or Idaho into Northern California, I should say, though. But yeah, they're just talking about the thunderstorm potential here. But a nice discussion here from the National Weather Service with that. This is looking at composite reflectivity, showing those thunderstorms. We go through the afternoon hours, look at some of those heavy downpours there across some Idaho, Oregon, moving up into Montana, and we're going to do this again tomorrow. Look at some of those showers moving up through Idaho into southwest Montana, through northern Nevada, clipping extreme southeast Oregon as well. But look at some of the thunderstorm activity across Montana, including Yellowstone, and then eventually that activity is going to push off to the east a bit more, and you can see Thursday afternoon maybe across some of Idaho, Montana, and places like Yellowstone. Look at some of those downpours occurring out there. Now looking at the precipitable water, this is what's generating that thunderstorm activity with that low pressure system down there, kind of bringing this moisture back up into Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. Goes on for the next couple days, and you can finally see it being shunted off to the east by the time we go into Thursday, just a bit anyway here, as we continue the onshore flow here across a lot of the Pacific Northwest. This is looking at a wider view of things here. We're comparing last night's European run versus yesterday afternoon's. You can see the troughing here continuing that onshore flow across the region. If we put this into motion, you'll see that trough kind of settle down over the Gulf of Alaska. Ridge starts to build across portions of Canada. This troughing here is going to be hanging out as we go through the weekends, and then it's going to try to move away. And you can see the latest run here actually starting to build this ridging in a little bit quicker here at the very end of the run. Now we're going to take a look at the GFS so we can look a little bit further out of the forecast. This is last night's run at 06Z. Here's this afternoon's run. Yesterday afternoon's run. Here goes that Gulf of Alaska troughing, and you can see the ridge building over Canada here, but you notice this trough is pretty close here, so that's going to mean a big difference here between just what kind of temperatures we expect across Pacific Northwest on the position of this trough. And you can kind of see it hanging out here, and it weakens, and then this ridging starts to get in towards the Pacific Northwest here as well. So pretty good signal for some above average conditions as we go on in through next week. Just how quickly we warm up is still in some question here. Some of the models are backing off the extreme warmth here across Pacific Northwest, but still, as you can see, we've got a lot of ridging going across the region here going on in through next week. This is looking at the seasonal. This is the equatorial Pacific here, and I just want to kind of show you what's going on here. You guys have probably been hearing a little bit about the severe weather out across the plains here. There's this persistent subtropical jet stream going on here, and it's most likely due to the developing El Niño here, that warm water out there helping to enhance this jet stream into North America here, and it just kind of continues on. This is looking at a wider view of things here. Here's Australia, Hawaii, and then the North America coast, west coast here. And you can see that jet stream there with that upper level low over California. If I put this in motion, just look at how persistent this subtropical jet stream is here as it just continues on through the end of the week here. We scroll on into the following week. You can see additional systems developing here as that jet stream just continues across the eastern Pacific Ocean here and just continues to move into North America there. So El Nino already having its influence being felt here across some of the planet already, and we're not even technically in the El Nino yet. More on that here in a moment. This is looking at the GFS here for the next 16 days. You can see the precipitation anomaly here, very dry across western Oregon, Washington, BC, and some of eastern BC as well, and kind of that below average signal across some of eastern Washington, Oregon also. Higher than normal precipitation expected here across portions of Idaho and Montana with that thunderstorm activity. This is looking out 300 hours. Look at this. This just kind of leaving Washington and portions of Oregon and BC out of the precipitation here over the next 300 hours or so. You know, we take this with a grain of salt still a little bit here, but it is the time of year where we really start to dry out here across portions of the Pacific Northwest. This is a national blend of models. Here's today. Look at mid-60s for Seattle, up towards 70, lower 70s in the Willamette Valley, and some 80s can be expected eastern Washington. We go to tomorrow. There's Thursday. Friday, you can see the warm-up coming by Saturday. Maybe not too bad of a weekend here coming up. Some 70s for Seattle, 80s into the Willamette Valley, some 90s for eastern Washington. So even some of the valleys there in BC warming up quite nicely into the mid and upper 80s as well. Here we go, Monday, Tuesday. Look at the warm-up occurring here. Even Seattle, mid 80s possible here. The entire Pacific Northwest quite warm at this point. There's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it does look like we're going to remain above average as we go through next week here. We'll have to watch this closely because just where that ridge sets up and how strong it is going to have a big impact on just how warm we get here across the region. This is looking at the GFS, 850 millibars, 5,000 feet. Below average conditions for the next few days as you look at 5,000 feet here. You can kind of see this ridging start to build in here, and the warmer than normal conditions start to take over with the trough not that far offshore. So we have to be careful with this. This is going to have a big impact on our forecast as we go on in through the weekend and into next week. As then you can see by the time we go into next week, that warm up really occurring a lot of the Pacific Northwest here as we go on into this would be about Tuesday evening there, and then this would be Wednesday morning. You can see that warm air aloft here potentially generating a warm wave, not going to talk about a heat wave just yet here. We got a ways to go for that. This is looking at the GFS 6-hour max temperature multiple run trend. So you can see some of the previous model runs had it a little bit warmer. You had some 90-degree days showing up here. Now it's more just like some 80s, upper 70s, lower 80s here. So kind of playing a little bit of back and forth here with the model runs, but we still have a ways to go. As you can see, this is all the way on into next week. So as we get closer day by day, we'll continue to monitor these trends. This is looking at Seattle, Tacoma on the European, and you can see it backed off a little bit on some of these high temperatures here. You can see it went from 82 to 71, but again, we're still looking out towards the end of the weekend into early next week here. So we'll watch this over the next couple of days closely. This is 6 to 10 day temperature probability outlook. You can clearly see the bullseye here across Pacific Northwest. 8 to 14 day, again, just kind of picking on the Pacific Northwest here as we go through June 12th. This is precipitation probability, and you can see that below average signal across western Washington. This has been updated this morning. You can see April 30th to May 29th here. We are well above normal across Pacific Northwest here, probably headed for the warmest May for many locations here across the region. This is precipitation, drier than normal, western Washington, Oregon, places into eastern Washington, including some of the Columbia bases drying out here. Hopefully we don't start developing these drought conditions, which is a possibility as we head towards summer. This is looking at El Nino. So we are in El Nino watch, greater than 90% chance of El Nino persisting into the northern hemisphere winter. This is looking at the conditions right now. So we are just a hair under. We went up to 0.5 and we went back down just a hair. But do not fear, we are definitely going into an El Nino. This is Niño 3.4 across the Equatorial Pacific. You can see where they measure those conditions here. Niño 1.2 is this little white box, and Niño 3 here is this red box there. Niño 4 is way over here. There's Australia, South America, Mexico there. You can see Niño 1.2 very warm along the immediate coastline of South America there, and Niño 3 is actually quite warm as well. It's probably helping to enhance this subtropical jet. With this warm water here, you're really enhancing that gradient. You've got warm, and then of course you got cooler on the north side of that, so it just increases that subtropical jet there. Now taking a look here El Nino is characterized by 3 straight months of 0.5 Celsius or hotter there. So we have to do this for 3 months before we're technically considered in an El Nino. So it's going to take a while to get there. But once you hit that, you're technically in El Nino conditions. So there is a difference there. This is looking at May 30th. You can see the CFS, and you can clearly see we do move into strong El Nino territory according to the forecast here. Moderate would be 1.0. But if you look here, you got July, August, September, October, November, December, January. You can clearly see that warm water built up across the equatorial Pacific. Classic El Nino signature as we head into the fall and winter months coming up here, which usually means above average temperatures here across the Pacific Northwest. We'll continue to watch that and break that down as we get closer, though. So anyway, yeah, those low clouds, it might be kind of hard to burn off for some areas of western Washington today, BC here. This marine layer is going to be a little bit more persistent today with this onshore flow. But hopefully we can get some sunshine today, maybe get up towards the mid and upper 60s here across some of the areas west of the Cascades. But you can see some glorious sunshine out there across western or eastern Washington here. But do not be fooled across some of the higher terrain of Idaho and Montana. These thunderstorms are coming. You're probably going to be able to see some altocumulus castellatus clouds out there. They're kind of those narrow towers there that build with the instability in the mid-levels as these clouds move into the region here. So you're going to be dealing with some, potentially strong thunderstorms here as we go through the next couple of days. So watch out for that if you're off in the backcountry in the higher terrain especially, or out going towards Yellowstone here Wednesday and Thursday, as some thunderstorms could pop up there as well. But anyway, so we'll watch this heat wave coming up here. We'll try to see if anything breaks in this weather, because that ridge looks pretty persistent coming up in our future here, and it's really limiting our precipitation here across Pacific Northwest. We'll continue to watch that and see if we can get some kind of change in the model runs coming up here. But anyway, hope you guys are having a good day today. I'll probably be out chasing. I'll probably leave tomorrow, maybe go out chasing Thursday and Friday. I may go out to Wyoming and Montana this time. So we'll see how that goes. I'll watch the model runs there. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day, and we will do this again tomorrow.